Have you ever caught yourself speaking your fears out loud, only to watch them unfold in your child's life? In this episode, I'm sharing a personal story of how my own unregulated emotions and words began shaping mine and my child's reality, and why it's so important to regulate ourselves before speaking unnecessary pain into our lives. Mama, are you tired of meltdowns stealing the peace in your home? Welcome to Parenting Beyond Meltdowns. I'm Amanda, a Christian life coach and a mom of a strong-willed neurospicy teen. If you've tried everything from consequences, parenting books, crying out to the Father, and still feel like you're failing, you're not alone. Inside this podcast, we'll explore how faith, emotional regulation, and connection work together so that you can parent from a place of peace, even in the hardest moments. You don't have to hold it all together here. This is a safe space to lay it all down. Welcome. Before we jump in today, let's read another review from a fellow mama. This is from Susan R6. She says, "Wow, this was powerful and spoke to my heart. Amanda spoke words that confirmed so much of what the Lord has impressed to me, and it filled my heart to get this confirmation. I want to hear more of what Amanda has to say. Thank you so much for leaving this review, Susan. I love it when the Father uses us to confirm the very things He's speaking to our hearts. I know that this review is going to bless so many other mamas just like you. Thank you. I want to take you back to a really hard season with my son. I was so overwhelmed, afraid, and beyond dysregulated, trying to convince my child to do the right thing. I started speaking all of my fears out loud. I was begging him to do the right thing. You're going to end up in trouble. If you keep doing this, you're going to ruin your life. I can't trust you to make good choices." And do you know what happened? Slowly but surely, those exact things started coming true. He began to live out the very words that I had spoken over him. I still remember one day standing in front of the window in our living room, and I was in front of the fireplace. Through tears, I was begging him not to do all of these things. I was so afraid of what he was going to do. He just looked at me and said, "Now I have to." I didn't understand at the time, but he wasn't being defiant or disrespectful. He was just trying to tell me the truth of what his brain was telling him. What I saw as protection, his brain told him was me trying to control him. His brain was telling him that I was stripping away all of his autonomy, and therefore his nervous system kicked in to fight or flight. I want to make a side note here and say that what I eventually realized was that all of these years that I saw rudeness, disrespect, defiance, manipulation, he was just telling me the truth as his brain saw it. He was trying to communicate that he had needs that were not being met and that he needed more information to understand. As parents, we've been told that when they talk back or they question us, that that's wrong, they're being disrespectful. But as adults, we're encouraged to think for ourselves and to ask questions and to push back against the status quo. A lot of times, neurodivergent kids specifically need more information, and so that looks like asking questions. And as adults, we tend to take it as being questioned, but they're just trying to better understand what's going on. They're not trying to disrespect us. That season taught me one of the hardest, most painful, yet invaluable lessons as a mama. Our unregulated fears can actually become the atmosphere that our children grow up in. What we speak has weight. And when we speak from fear instead of faith, unintentionally, we're handing our kids an identity that was never theirs to carry. So how do we stop the cycle of fear-driven parenting? How do we regulate ourselves so our words bring life instead of shame? Let me walk you through 3 shifts that helped me. Number 1 was to recognize the power of my words. The Bible says in Proverbs 18:21 that the tongue has the power of life and death. When we're dysregulated, it's easy to blurt out of fear and frustration, but those words become truths that our children carry. Science tells us that our kids are always scanning the environment to see if they feel safe. The truth is, when we as moms are anxious, upset, totally dysregulated, they pick up on that right away. And if they sense any instability, their own nervous system reacts. Suddenly, they're dysregulated too. That's often when acting out starts, not because they're being defiant, but because they're trying to find safety and control. So let's say that again, but in a different way. When our kids feel scared, even if they can't explain why, their brains slip into survival mode. That might look like fight, flight, or freeze. And here's the thing, a lot of times they don't have words to say, "I'm scared," or "I feel out of control." So instead, it comes out as misbehavior, big emotions, or total shutdown. They're not trying to be bad. They're just doing the best that they can to feel safe again. And I 100% believe when we parent from fear, it opens the door to the enemy, who's only come to steal, kill, and destroy. This is how we fight the enemy. We fight him with the word. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and of sound mind." Isaiah 41:10 says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." 1 John 4:18 says, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love." Psalms 34:4 says, "I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all of my fears." Joshua 1:9 says, "Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Isaiah 43:1 says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name. You are mine." And in James 3:5 and 6, it talks about while the tongue may be small, it has incredible power. Just like a tiny spark can set an entire forest on fire, our words can set the course of our lives and our children's lives on fire for good or for harm. When our words come from fear or anger, they spread destruction. But when they're surrendered to God, they bring life, healing, and direction. When you feel fear rising, pause and ask, am I about to speak life or my fears that will spread like wildfire? 2, regulate before you respond. You can't pour peace out of an anxious heart. When your child's behavior triggers fear, pause, focus on your breathing, take a few deep breaths, pray, step away for the moment if needed. Now, I know that there are those who tell us that you have to handle it right there in that second, otherwise they won't learn their lesson. I would offer up that if you react from complete dysregulation, you will cause damage that you might not be able to undo. I also utilize using essential oils as a tool to help me regulate my nervous system. I want you to know that not all essential oils are the same. I don't recommend just grabbing one off the store shelf. I personally use and trust the seed to sale process of Young Living essential oils. Some of my favorites are Stress Away, Peace and Calming, Tranquil, and Grounding. You can check out my show notes for additional details. For me, this looks like putting a drop or maybe 5 on my hand, in my hands, and rubbing them on my wrists, and then breathing in deeply and whispering a prayer like, "Lord, help me to see the way you see him." The reset helps me to speak from love, truth, and identity instead of panic and fear. I also often diffuse essential oils in our home just to create a calm and peaceful atmosphere for the entire family. Number 3, replace fear with truth. Instead of predicting failure, and speak identity. Instead of "you're going to ruin your life," try "God has plans for you." Instead of "I can't trust you," say "I believe in who God created you to be." Instead of "you're always in trouble," try saying "you're loved even when things are hard." This doesn't mean ignoring their behavior. It means separating your child's worth from their struggles and refusing to hand them an identity rooted in fear. Years ago, my stepdad was praying, and the Father gave him a vision of my son. He was 6'5", dressed in a basketball uniform, with his hand on his hip, and kind of like he said a cocky attitude, but it wasn't really cocky. It was like confident, like he had a ball on his hip and he was confident in who he was. That was the image that was portrayed to him. We've taken that as a family, and we've used that vision to stand on it as a promise from the Father of who my son's true identity is. There have been times when I have felt so hopeless, and that vision my stepfather shared with me, it gave me something to hold on to. And there were times that sometimes I forgot about it, and my mom would remind me. If you want to take replacing fear with truth to a deeper level, I would encourage you to take some time with the Father and ask him who he says your child is. Ask him to tell you or show you who he sees when he looks at your child, because it's probably very different from who you believe you're seeing every day. Write it down, read it often, begin to speak it over them. I've often gone into my child's room when they're at school or away from home, and diffused an essential oil that the Father led me to that day. And then I speak the truth of who they are into the very atmosphere of the room, soaking the room in truth and identity. You can share this promise that the Lord gives you with your spouse or a trusted friend and ask them to remind you when you forget. But most importantly, ask the Father to remind you in those really hard moments when fear wants to scream louder than the truth. Ask Him to speak the truth back to you so that you can then speak that truth to your fear. Mama, this is what I want you to hear today. Your fears don't get the final word. God does. When you regulate yourself, you create space to speak life even in the hardest moments. This week, when fear tries to spill out of your mouth, pause. Take a deep breath. Whisper a prayer. Use the word as your sword and choose to speak life and identity instead. Your words matter, and your calm presence can break the cycle of fear becoming reality. Remember, we will not do this perfectly. We will forget or have bad moments and be dysregulated, but that's when we repair with our Father, with our child, and we do better next time. This is no place for shame, only for learning and growing. Until next time, Mama, stay rooted in faith and anchored in love. Are you looking for a little extra support between episodes? Make sure to become an insider. It's my email list where I share encouragement, emotional regulation tips, and practical tools for helping you parent with more peace and connection. You can join using the link in my show notes today. Hey, sweet mama. I hope you loved today's episode. Can you do me a favor? If this episode spoke to your heart, would you take 30 seconds and share it with a mama in your life that needs to know they aren't alone? Also, would you leave a quick review on Apple Podcasts for me? It blesses my heart to know this show is giving you hope in the hard moments. All right, I'm off to grab some protein because love and grace flows easier when you're not running on fumes and coffee. I'll meet you back here next week for another honest, hope-filled conversation. In the meantime, mama, stay rooted in faith and anchored in love.